The alarm screamed through the cargo ship. Red lights flashed in every corridor. Daehyun gripped the pilot controls as the pale dawn shook violently. Something was very wrong with the engines. "Jiwon, what's happening?" He shouted over the noise. Jiwon's fingers flew across her navigation console. Her face looked pale in the red emergency lights. "The main engine just died. The backup is failing too. We're losing power fast." Behind them, Hyejin ran into the cockpit. She was the youngest on the crew, barely 23 years old. Her eyes were wide with fear. "Minho is trapped in the engine room." Something exploded. "He's hurt badly." Daehyun felt his stomach drop. He had been flying cargo ships for 12 years, but he had never faced anything like this. They were in deep space, far from any planet or station. If the engines died completely, they would drift forever in the darkness. "Send the distress signal," Daehyun ordered. "Send it on all channels." Jiwon nodded and activated the emergency beacon. The ship had an automatic system for this. It would broadcast their location and situation to anyone nearby. In Federation space, help should come quickly. That was the law. That was the promise. The ship stopped shaking. The sudden silence was worse than the noise. The engines were completely dead now. Only emergency power remained, giving them lights and life support. For now, Hyejin was crying softly. "What about Minho?" "Go to him," Daehyun said. "Do what you can. I'll stay here and wait for rescue." Hyejin left quickly. Daehyun could hear her footsteps echoing through the metal corridors. The ship felt empty now. Just 4 humans on a dead vessel, floating in the void between stars. "How long until someone arrives?" Daehyun asked. Jiwon checked her screens. "A Velkaran military ship is only 2 hours away. They're responding to our signal." 2 hours. Daehyun felt some relief. The Velkarans were the ones who employed them. They owned the cargo in the hold. They would help. They had to help, but something in Jiwon's voice made him look at her. She was staring at her screen with a strange expression. "What is it?" he asked. "They're not asking about our condition. They're asking about the cargo." Daehyun felt cold. The Velkarans had hired them 6 months ago. Humans were cheap labor in the galaxy. Earth was new to space travel and humans needed work. The Velkaran Federation paid low wages but offered steady employment. Daehyun and his crew had been grateful for the job. Now he wondered if that was a mistake. The 2 hours passed slowly. Jiwon worked on keeping the life support running. Hyejin returned with bad news. Minho had burns on his arms and chest. He had hit his head when the engine exploded. She had bandaged him as best she could, but he needed real medical help soon. When the Velkaran ship finally arrived, Daehyun felt hope again. He watched through the viewport as the massive cruiser approached. It was at least 5 times larger than the Pale Dawn. Its hull was dark purple, covered in the symbols of the Velkaran military. "They're hailing us," Jiwon said. "Put them through." The main screen flickered to life. A Velkaran officer appeared. His face was wide and flat with 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern. His skin was a deep blue color. He wore a military uniform with many medals. "This is Captain Tolvik of the Relentless Tide," the alien said. His voice was cold and formal. "We have received your distress call." "Thank you for coming," Daehyun said quickly. "Our engines are dead. We have 1 injured crew member who needs medical attention. Can you help us?" Captain Tolvik's 4 eyes blinked slowly. It was hard to read Velkaran expressions, but Daehyun thought he saw something like annoyance on the alien's face. "We are scanning your vessel now," Tolvik said. "The cargo appears intact." "That is good. What about us?" Daehyun asked. "Can you tow us to a station? Or at least take us aboard until we can arrange repairs?" There was a long pause. Captain Tolvik looked at something off-screen. Then he looked back at Daehyun. "Your employment contract has been terminated," the alien said simply. Daehyun felt like he had been punched in the stomach. What do you mean?" "The Pale Dawn is a total loss. The cost of towing and repairing it exceeds its value. The cost of rescuing 4 human workers also exceeds the value of your remaining contract period. Therefore, the Velkaran Federation Trading Company has decided to terminate your employment immediately." Jiwon stood up from her console. Her voice shook with anger. "You can't just leave us here. We'll die." Captain Tholvik showed no emotion. "Your contract includes a clause about operational losses. The company is not required to rescue crew members when the cost exceeds reasonable limits. Humans are relatively inexpensive to replace. We're people. Daehyun said. He heard his voice rising but couldn't stop it. You can't leave us to die. There are laws, Federation laws about rescue and emergency aid. Those laws apply to Federation citizens, Thulvik said. You are contract workers from Earth. Your planet is not a full member of the Federation. You have limited protections under law. Daehyun felt the world spinning around him. He had known humans were treated as second-class workers in space. But he never imagined it would come to this. Please, he said. We have families. Minho is badly injured. Just take us aboard your ship. We'll work without pay. We'll do anything. Captain Thulvik's expression didn't change. We are here to recover the cargo. You have 30 minutes to evacuate anything you wish to keep. After that, we will dock and remove the cargo containers. Then we will depart. You're taking our cargo but leaving us. Shiwon's voice was full of disbelief. It is company property. You are not. Thulvik's image disappeared from the screen. For a long moment, nobody spoke. The cockpit was silent except for the quiet hum of emergency power and the beeping of life support systems. They're really going to leave us, Hyejin whispered. She had come back to the cockpit during the conversation. Her face was white with shock. Daehyun watched through the viewport as the Velkaran cruiser positioned itself next to their ship. He saw hatches opening, docking tubes extended. They were preparing to take the cargo. How much air do we have? He asked quietly. Ji-won checked her console. Her hands were shaking. 4 days. Maybe 5 if we stay still and breathe slowly. The life support systems are barely working. They'll fail completely within a week. And nobody knows we're here? Our distress signal is still broadcasting. But this sector is controlled by Velkaran ships. If they've been ordered not to help us. She didn't finish the sentence. The ship shuddered as the Velkaran cruiser docked. Daehyun heard the sound of their cargo containers being detached and removed. Each sound felt like a nail in a coffin. It took the Velkarans 20 minutes to empty their hold. They worked efficiently like they had done this many times before. Maybe they had. Maybe humans weren't the first crew to be left behind when it was more convenient to abandon them than to help. When they were finished, the Velkaran ship undocked. Daehyun watched it prepare to leave. He felt numb. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be real. He opened the communication channel one last time. Captain Thulvik, please. We're begging you. Don't leave us here. There was no response for a moment. Then Thulvik's voice came through, cold and emotionless. Consider this advice for your next life. Buy better insurance. The Velkaran cruiser's engines flared bright blue. It turned slowly and accelerated away. Within minutes, it was gone. The stars looked exactly the same. Nothing had changed in the universe. But everything had changed for the 4 humans left behind. Daehyun sat down in the pilot chair. He felt very tired suddenly. Ji-won was standing at her console, still staring at the empty space where the Velkaran ship had been. Hyejin had collapsed into a chair, her face in her hands. We need to check on Minho, Daehyun said finally. His voice sounded strange to his own ears, distant, like someone else was speaking. They found Minho conscious but in pain. He looked up at them with questions in his eyes. Daehyun told him what had happened. Minho closed his eyes and said nothing. What was there to say? The 4 of them sat together in the medical bay. The emergency lights cast strange shadows on the walls. Outside the small windows, space was completely black. No stars nearby. No planets. No hope. What do we do now? Hyejin asked. Daehyun looked at his crew. They were all looking at him, waiting for an answer. He was the pilot. The leader. They expected him to have a solution, but he had nothing. No plan, no hope. They were going to die here. Alone in the dark, abandoned by the very people who had promised them work and safety. Still, he had to say something. We survive, he said. As long as we can. We don't give up. Maybe someone will hear our signal. Maybe someone will come. Nobody argued with him, but nobody looked like they believed it either. They all knew the truth. In this part of space, there was nobody coming. Nobody who would care about 4 human workers from a distant planet that barely mattered to the great powers of the galaxy. They were alone. And soon they would be dead. The first day was the hardest. Not because anything changed, but because nothing did. The ship was still dead. They were still drifting. And every breath used up air they couldn't replace. Daehyun refused to let them sit and wait for death. He called a meeting in the cockpit 6 hours after the Velkarans left. We need a plan, he said. We need to be smart about this. Minho was there too, leaning against the wall. His face was pale and covered in sweat, but he insisted on coming. What kind of plan? He asked. We're dead. We just don't know it yet. No, Daehyun said firmly. We're alive right now. That means we fight. We use every second we have, Ji-won nodded slowly. She had been working on something at her console. I've been looking at our distress signal. It's weak. The Velkarans damaged some of our communication equipment when they took the cargo. I think they did it on purpose. So nobody will hear us? Not unless they come very close. And even then they might ignore it. Like the Velkarans did. Ji-won's voice was bitter. Can you make it stronger? Daehyun asked. Maybe if I use parts from our personal communicators and some wiring from the cargo bay. It won't be much, but it might reach a bit farther. Do it, Daehyun said. Hyejin, you help her. I'll work with Minho on the life support systems. Hyejin looked surprised. What can we do with life support? It's already running. It's running, but barely, Minho said. He pushed himself away from the wall, wincing in pain. The oxygen recyclers are damaged. They're working at maybe 60%. If we can repair them even a little bit, we buy more time. Time, that was all they could buy. Not rescue, not hope. Just time. They split up and went to work. Daehyun helped Minho down to the engineering section. The older man moved slowly, his burns clearly causing him terrible pain. But he didn't complain. He just focused on the machinery. Here, Minho said, pointing at a large metal box on the wall. This is the primary oxygen recycler. It takes the carbon dioxide we breathe out and converts it back to oxygen. But the explosion damaged the filters, and can we fix it? Minho shook his head. Not really. But we can make it work a bit harder. There's a backup filter system for emergencies. It was never activated because it uses a lot of power. But power doesn't matter now. We're going to die from bad air before we run out of electricity. They spent hours working on the recycler. Minho's hand shook as he rewired connections. Twice he had to stop because the pain got too bad. Daehyun wanted to make him rest, but Minho refused. If I rest, I'll think, Minho said. If I think, I'll remember my daughter back on Earth. I'll think about never seeing her again. So I'd rather work, Daehyun understood. He felt the same way. If he stopped moving, stopped trying, the fear would crush him. By the end of the first day, they had made small progress. The oxygen recycler was working a bit better. Not much, but enough to buy them maybe 6 or 8 more hours of life. Ji-won and Hyejin had strengthened the distress signal. It still wasn't strong enough to reach far, but it was better than before. That night they tried to sleep. But sleep was difficult. The ship was cold now. They had turned off heating to save power. They huddled together in the cockpit, sharing blankets. Tell me about Earth, Hyejin said quietly in the darkness. Tell me about home, so they talked. About cities and oceans. About seasons and weather. About foods they missed and places they loved. It helped. For a little while they could forget where they were. The second day was worse. They woke up with headaches. The air quality was dropping. The recycler couldn't keep up with 4 people breathing constantly. Minho's fever was getting higher. His burns were infected despite Hyejin's care. He needed antibiotics they didn't have. He needed a real doctor. Daehyun spent the morning trying to repair a secondary communication system. If they could get just one more radio working, they might be able to send a clearer message. But every system on the ship had been stripped or damaged. The Velkarans had been thorough. Around midday, Ji-won called out excitedly. I'm picking up something. Radio chatter. Everyone crowded around her console. She adjusted the frequency. Voices came through speaking in the clicking language of the Velkarans. Can you translate? Daehyun asked. Some of it. They're talking about trade routes. There are at least 2 Velkaran ships within a few hours of us. Hope flared in Daehyun's chest. Hail them. Try to contact them. Ji-won worked her controls. She sent out messages on every frequency she could find. Minutes passed. Then a response came through. A Velkaran voice spoke in rough but understandable human language. Unknown vessel, identify yourself. Daehyun grabbed the microphone. This is the cargo ship Pale Dawn. We're in distress. Our crew is dying. We need immediate rescue. There was a pause. Then the Velkaran spoke again. You are the ship that was abandoned yesterday. Captain Tholvik logged your situation. Your contract has been terminated. Please, Daehyun said. We're human beings. We need help. The Velkaran's voice took on a strange tone. It sounded almost amused. Should have bought better insurance, humans. Next time, read your contract more carefully. The radio went silent. They tried hailing again, but there was no response. The Velkaran ships knew they were there. They just didn't care. Jiwan turned off the radio. She was shaking with anger and frustration. They laughed at us. They actually laughed. Hyejin was crying again. Daehyun felt something break inside him. This was how they would die. Not from the cold or the bad air, but from the simple fact that nobody in the galaxy cared if humans lived or died. The second day dragged on. Minho got worse. He started seeing things that weren't there, talking to people who weren't in the room. The infection was spreading. Hyejin sat with him reading from her personal tablet. She read children's stories, the kind her mother used to read to her. Minho seemed to find comfort in them. By the third day they were all struggling. The air was thick and hard to breathe. Every movement took enormous effort. The headaches were constant now. Daehyun knew what was happening. Carbon dioxide was building up faster than the recycler could remove it. Soon it would reach toxic levels. He checked Jiwon's calculations. They had less than 24 hours left. Maybe 30 if they were lucky. But luck seemed like something that happened to other people, not to them. The temperature kept dropping. The emergency power was failing. They moved everything they needed into the cockpit. It was the smallest area, easier to keep warm. They sealed the door to trap what little heat remained. They sat close together, wrapped in every piece of fabric they could find. Minho was barely conscious now. Hyejin held his hand and read to him, even though he probably couldn't hear her anymore. Jiwon stared at her console, watching the numbers count down. Oxygen levels falling, carbon dioxide rising, temperature dropping. Daehyun tried to think of something encouraging to say, some words of hope or comfort, but he had nothing left. He was tired, so tired. It would be easy to close his eyes and sleep. To just let it end, do you think it hurts? Hyejin asked suddenly. Dying in space? Daehyun looked at her. She was so young. She should be on Earth living a full life, getting married, having children, growing old, not dying at 23 in the cold darkness between stars. No, he lied. I don't think it hurts. You just fall asleep. Jiwon spoke without looking up from her console. Her voice was flat and emotionless. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I couldn't fix the ship. I'm sorry I couldn't make the signal strong enough. I'm sorry I wasn't smart enough to save us. This isn't your fault, Daehyun said. None of this is our fault. We were just trying to make a living. We didn't deserve this, but we got it anyway, Jiwon said. She laughed, but it was a bitter sound. That's the universe, I guess. It doesn't care what we deserve. The hours crawled past. They drifted in and out of consciousness. The cold was deeper now. Daehyun couldn't feel his feet anymore. His fingers were numb. When he breathed, his chest hurt. The air tasted wrong, metallic and sharp. Minho stopped breathing sometime in the afternoon. They didn't notice right away. When Hyejin realized, she screamed. But it was a weak sound. She didn't have the energy for more. They wrapped Minho in a blanket and moved him to the side of the cockpit. There was nothing else they could do. Now there were 3 of them. 3 humans waiting to die. Daehyun's mind started to wander. He saw his sister's face. She was laughing about something. What was her name? Why couldn't he remember? The memory slipped away like water through his fingers. Jiwon's lips had turned blue. Her breathing was shallow and rapid. She kept trying to adjust the console controls, but her hands wouldn't work properly. She was crying, though she probably didn't realize it. Tears ran down her cheeks and froze in the cold air. Hyejin had stopped moving. She sat with her eyes closed, her head resting against the wall. Daehyun wondered if she was already dead. But then he saw her chest rise and fall, still alive. For now he tried to check the time. How long had it been? Hours, days? The numbers on the console didn't make sense anymore. Everything was getting confused. His thoughts were mixing together. Memories and dreams and hallucinations all blending into one strange fog somewhere. An alarm was beeping. A warning sound. Something about the life support. Or maybe the proximity sensors. Did it matter? Nothing mattered anymore. Daehyun closed his eyes. He was so cold, so tired. Just a little rest. Just a few minutes of sleep. Then he'd get up and fix things. He'd save his crew. He'd get them home. Somewhere in the fog of dying, Daehyun heard a sound. A beeping. Insistent and annoying. He wanted it to stop. He wanted to sleep. Why wouldn't the universe let him sleep? The beeping continued. It was the proximity alarm. Something was near the ship. His brain tried to process this information, but thinking was like walking through thick mud. Everything was slow and heavy. Jiwon moved beside him. She was trying to say something, but her voice was too quiet. He couldn't hear the words. Then another sound cut through the darkness. A voice speaking human language, speaking Korean. Cargo vessel Pale Dawn, this is TDSS Indomitable. We received your distress signal. Hold on. We're coming to get you. Daehyun's eyes opened. He wasn't sure if he was hallucinating or if the voice was real. TDSS. What did that mean? And Indomitable. That was a human word. A human name. Jiwon was staring at her console. Her blue lips were moving. Ship. Big ship. Human design. Daehyun tried to sit up. His body didn't want to obey. Everything hurt. His chest felt like someone was sitting on it. But he forced himself to move. He had to see. Had to know if this was real or just his dying mind playing tricks. Through the cockpit window he saw lights. Bright lights in the darkness. And behind the lights a shape. A massive ship. Bigger than any Valkyrian cruiser he had ever seen. Its hull was dark gray and blue. And on the side, painted in white letters, were human symbols. Earth symbols, how? How was this possible? His hand fumbled for the communication controls. He had to respond. Had to tell them to hurry. His fingers wouldn't work properly. Nothing worked properly anymore. Finally, he managed to press the button. His voice came out as a broken whisper. This is Pale Dawn. 4 crew, dying. Please. Acknowledged Pale Dawn. Boarding team is launching now. Stay with us, stay with us. As if they had a choice. As if they could do anything but wait and hope and pray that this wasn't a cruel dream. Daehyun saw smaller ships detach from the big vessel. They were sleek and fast, moving with purpose toward the Pale Dawn. In less than a minute, he heard the sound of docking. Metal connecting with metal. Then footsteps. Heavy boots running through the corridors of their dead ship. The cockpit door burst open. Men and women in dark blue uniforms poured in. They wore helmets with clear visors. Medical equipment hung from their belts. One of them went straight to Jiwon, another knelt beside Daehyun. We've got you, the woman said. Her voice was muffled by the helmet, but he could hear the concern in it. You're safe now. Safe. The word seemed impossible. Foreign. They had given up on safety days ago. Someone was checking on Hyejin. Someone else was examining Minho's body. Daehyun wanted to tell them that Minho was dead, that they were too late for him. But he couldn't make his mouth form the words. The woman beside him was doing something to his arm. He felt a sharp pinch, a needle, then warmth spreading through his body. Medicine, they were giving him medicine. How long were you like this? She asked. He tried to answer, but everything was going fuzzy again. The warmth from the injection was spreading. It felt good, too good. His eyes closed. Stay awake, the woman said firmly. I need you to stay awake for a few more minutes, but he couldn't. The darkness pulled him down again. This time it was different. Softer. Kinder. Not the darkness of death, but the darkness of deep sleep. The last thing he heard was someone saying, Get them to medical, fast, they're in bad shape. When Daehyun woke again, everything was different. He was warm. He was lying on something soft. Clean white sheets covered him. Bright lights shone overhead, but they didn't hurt his eyes. And most importantly, he could breathe. The air was fresh and clean and perfect. He was alive. A face appeared above him. A human face. A woman with kind eyes and short black hair. She wore a white medical uniform. Welcome back, she said with a smile. I'm Dr. Yoonji. You're on the TDSS Indomitable. You're safe, Daehyun tried to speak. His throat was raw and painful. She held up a hand. Don't talk yet. Your lungs were badly damaged from breathing toxic air. They're healing, but you need rest. She adjusted something on a screen beside his bed. Your friends are here too. Jiwon and Hyejin are in the next room. They're going to be fine, Jiwon. Hyejin, they were alive. Relief flooded through him. Minho? He managed to croak. Dr. Yoonji's expression became sad. I'm sorry. He was already gone when we found you. The infection and carbon dioxide poisoning together. There was nothing we could do. Daehyun closed his eyes. He had known. Of course he had known. But hearing it made it real in a way it hadn't been before. You were minutes away from death, Dr. Yoonji said gently. All 3 of you. If we had arrived even 10 minutes later. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. How? Daehyun asked. How did you find us? Your distress signal. We picked it up 2 days ago. We were patrolling this sector and heard your call. As soon as we realized you were human, we changed course to reach you. 2 days. They had been listening to the Pale Dawn's cries for help for 2 days. Racing to reach them in time, but what ship is this? Daehyun asked. I've never heard of TDSS, and this vessel, it's huge. More advanced than anything I've seen from Earth. Dr. Yoonji smiled. Get some rest. Captain Seonwoo will want to speak with you when you're stronger. She'll explain everything. Over the next few hours, Daehyun felt his strength slowly returning. The medicine worked wonders. He could breathe without pain. He could think clearly. He could feel his fingers and toes again. It was like being reborn. Jiwon came to visit him. She looked thin and tired, but her eyes were bright. Can you believe this? She said, sitting on the edge of his bed. A human warship. Out here in Velkaran space, where did it come from? I don't know, Daehyun said. But I'm grateful it exists. Hyejin visited too. She cried when she saw him, but they were tears of relief and joy. I thought we were dead. I was sure of it. And then they appeared like angels from heaven. Not angels, Daehyun said. Just humans. Like us, but that wasn't quite true, was it? These humans were different. They had technology, power. They had arrived in a massive warship and plucked 3 dying people from the edge of death. Earth didn't have ships like this. At least he had never heard of any. The next day, Captain Seonwoo came to see him. She was a woman in her early 40s with sharp eyes and a military bearing. Her uniform was crisp and perfect. She carried herself with quiet authority. I'm glad you're recovering, she said, pulling up a chair beside his bed. Dr. Yoonji tells me you'll make a full recovery. All 3 of you. Thank you, Daehyun said. Thank you for saving us. Captain Seonwoo's expression hardened. Tell me what happened. I want to hear it from you. So Daehyun told her everything. The engine failure. The distress call. Captain Thulvik and his cold dismissal. Being abandoned to die while the Velkarans took their cargo. The desperate days trying to survive. Minho's death. As he spoke, Captain Seonwoo's face grew darker. By the time he finished, she looked furious. This is the 7th crew we've rescued in the past 6 months, she said. 7. Human workers abandoned by alien employers when it became inconvenient to help them. Left to die like they were nothing. I don't understand, Daehyun said. Where did this ship come from? How does Earth have vessels like this? Captain Seonwoo looked at him for a long moment. Then she made a decision. Come with me. You need to see something. She helped him into a wheelchair. His legs were still too weak to walk far. They traveled through corridors that gleamed with advanced technology. Crew members nodded respectfully to the captain as they passed. Everyone wore the same dark blue uniform with the TDSS insignia on the shoulder. They reached a large window overlooking a hangar bay. Daehyun gasped. Inside were dozens of smaller craft, fighters, shuttles, landing vessels. All human-made, all advanced, all deadly-looking. For 8 years, Captain Seonwoo said quietly, while Earth has been playing the role of the weak newcomer, we've been building, secretly, carefully. We took the technology we bought from the Federation and improved it. We combined it with human innovation and creativity, and we built ships. Why secretly? Daehyun asked. Because the galaxy thinks humans are weak, desperate, easy to exploit. And we let them think that. We let them underestimate us. We sent our people out as cheap labor, knowing some would be abused, knowing some would die. Her voice was heavy with pain, and we used that anger, that injustice, as motivation. She turned to face him. The Indomitable is one of 12 deep space vessels. We patrol the trade routes. We listen for distress calls from human workers, and when we find our people abandoned or abused, we respond. Daehyun felt his world shifting. Earth wasn't weak. They had been hiding their strength. Building in secret, preparing. Why tell me this? He asked. Because you've seen what the galaxy really thinks of us. You've experienced their cruelty firsthand. And because I want you to understand something very important. Captain Seonwoo's eyes were hard as steel. What happened to you is about to have consequences. Captain Thulvik is about to learn that humans are not disposable anymore. A chill ran down Daehyun's spine, not from cold this time, but from anticipation. What are you going to do? Captain Seonwoo smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. We're going to send a message. One that the entire galaxy will hear. 3 days passed before Daehyun was strong enough to walk on his own. During that time, he learned more about the Indomitable and its crew. What he discovered amazed him. The ship carried 400 people. Scientists, soldiers, engineers, doctors, all human, all dedicated to a single purpose: protecting humans in deep space. The technology was stunning. The medical bay where he recovered could have been lifted from a hospital on Earth, but better. Everything was clean, efficient, and advanced. Jiwon recovered faster than Daehyun. Her curiosity drove her. She spent hours talking with the ship's engineers, asking questions about the propulsion systems, the weapons, the computers. She came back to Daehyun's room with her eyes shining with excitement. "The engines are incredible," she said. "They use a hybrid system that's 30% more efficient than standard Federation drives. And the stealth technology, Daehyun, this ship can disappear from most sensors. That's how they got here without anyone noticing." Hee-jin was quieter. She spent most of her time in the medical bay, helping Dr. Yoonji with other patients. Keeping busy seemed to help her process what had happened. Sometimes Daehyun saw her sitting alone, staring out the windows at the stars. He knew she was thinking about Minho. They held a memorial service for him. Captain Seonwoo attended, along with many crew members who had never met Minho but came to show respect. They said words about sacrifice and brotherhood, about how every human life mattered. Hee-jin cried through the whole service. Daehyun held her hand and tried not to cry himself. On the fourth day, Captain Seonwoo called them to her office. It was a practical room, not large or decorated. Maps and displays covered the walls, showing star charts and ship positions. Jiwon and Hee-jin came with Daehyun. They sat in chairs facing the captain's desk. Another officer was there too, a young man with serious eyes. Captain Seonwoo introduced him as Lieutenant Taejin, the head of security. "I wanted to update you on the situation," Captain Seonwoo said. "We've been tracking Captain Thulvik's ship. The Relentless Tide is currently docked at a trading station called Hepter's Reach. It's a major hub in this sector, run by the Velkarans." "What does that mean?" Daehyun asked. "It means we know where to find him, and we're going to pay him a visit." Daehyun felt his heart beat faster. "You're going after him?" "Not just him. We're going after the message he represents." Captain Seonwoo leaned forward. "For years, alien species have treated humans as disposable. Cheap labor that can be abandoned when convenient. That stops now. Today." Lieutenant Taejin spoke up. "The Indomitable has been authorized by Earth Defense Command to enforce protection of human workers. We have legal authority to pursue cases of abandonment and abuse." "Legal authority from Earth," Jiwon said slowly. "But will the Velkarans recognize that authority?" Captain Seonwoo smiled. "They will after today." She stood and walked to a display on the wall. It showed the trading station, a massive structure in orbit around a gas giant. Dozens of ships were docked there. Hepter's Reach is a symbol of Velkaran power in this region. They've never been challenged here. But that's about to change. She looked at Daehyun. "I want you three to come with us. You deserve to see this." Daehyun glanced at Jiwon and Hee-jin. They both nodded. They wanted to be there. They needed to be there. The journey to Hepter's Reach took 18 hours. During that time, Daehyun watched the crew prepare. They were professional and calm. Nobody seemed nervous. These people had done this before. He spent time talking with Dr. Yoonji. She was kind and easy to talk to. She told him about her life before joining the TDSS. She had been a trauma surgeon in Seoul before volunteering for the Deep Space program. "Why did you join?" Daehyun asked. "Because I got tired of reading reports," she said. "Reports about human workers dying in space. About accidents and abandonment and abuse. I wanted to do something about it. So I volunteered." "Weren't you scared? Coming out here so far from Earth?" Dr. Yoonji smiled. "Terrified. But sometimes being scared means you're doing something important." Daehyun also met some of the security team. They were soldiers, but different from what he expected. They weren't aggressive or violent. They were thoughtful and careful. Lieutenant Taejin explained their training. "We're not here to start wars," he said. "We're here to protect our people. But we're prepared to use force if necessary. The galaxy needs to understand that humans won't be victims anymore." As they approached Hepter's Reach, Captain Seonwoo called Daehyun, Jiwon, and Hee-jin to the bridge. It was the nerve center of the ship, filled with displays and control stations. Officers worked quietly at their posts. Everyone knew their job. Through the main view screen, Daehyun saw the trading station. It was enormous, bigger than a city. Lights glowed across its surface. Ships of all sizes were docked at various ports. It looked peaceful, busy, normal. Scan for the relentless tide, Captain Xianwu ordered. Found it, Captain, an officer reported. Docking Bay 17. They're loading cargo. No indication they know we're here. Good, take us in. Full stealth protocol. Get us close before they can react. The Indomitable moved forward. Daehyun couldn't feel any acceleration, but the station grew larger on the screen. They were approaching fast. Suddenly, alarms started blaring throughout the station. Daehyun could hear them through the communication channels. They've detected us, the sensor officer said. How? Captain Xianwu asked. She didn't sound worried, just curious. We're too close, Captain. Stealth systems can't hide us at this range. Doesn't matter. Open a channel to the station. A Velkaran face appeared on the screen. It was a female, her 4 eyes wide with alarm. Unknown vessel, you have entered restricted space. Identify yourself immediately or we will. This is Captain Xianwu of the Terran Deep Space Service vessel Indomitable, the captain interrupted smoothly. We are here on official business. We mean no harm to the station. However, we require immediate contact with Captain Thulvik of the Relentless Tide. The Velkaran stared at them. Terran? You mean human? This is impossible. Humans don't have military vessels. Clearly, you've been misinformed. Get me Captain Thulvik now. The screen went blank. Captain Xianwu turned to Lieutenant Taejin. Paint them. Yes, Captain. Daehyun didn't understand what that meant until Jiwon explained. They're targeting the Relentless Tide with weapon systems. Every critical point on that ship is now locked. If they try to run or fight, the Indomitable can destroy them in seconds. Minutes passed. Then the screen lit up again. This time Captain Thulvik appeared. His 4 eyes blinked in confusion and fear. What is this? He demanded. Human ships are not permitted in this sector. You will leave immediately or what? Captain Xianwu's voice was cold as ice. You'll file a complaint? You'll call for help? Please do. I'd love to explain to your superiors why we're here. Thulvik's mouth opened and closed. No words came out. Let me save you the trouble, Captain Xianwu continued. 4 days ago, you abandoned 4 human crew members to die in space. You violated multiple Federation laws regarding emergency rescue. You confiscated cargo while leaving the crew behind, and when they begged for help, you laughed at them. That was a business decision, Thulvik said weakly. The contract allowed you to commit murder. Captain Xianwu's voice rose slightly. Let me show you something, Captain. She gestured to someone off screen. The image changed to show Daehyun, Jiwon, and Hijin standing on the bridge. Thulvik's eyes widened when he saw them. These are the people you left to die. 3 of them survived. The 4th Minho died from his injuries because you refused to provide medical assistance. His death is on your hands. Thulvik tried to speak, but Captain Xianwu cut him off again. Here's what's going to happen. You will transport to my ship immediately. You will face charges for your actions, and you will compensate these crew members for their suffering. I will not, Thulvik said, trying to sound brave. You have no authority here. The Velkaran Federation is watching this conversation, Captain Xianwu said. We're broadcasting on all channels. Every ship in this sector can hear us. And they're all learning the same lesson. Humans are not disposable anymore. She nodded to Lieutenant Taejin. Suddenly Thulvik screamed. The image on the screen flickered and changed. Now it showed the inside of his ship. Except Thulvik wasn't there anymore. He was on the Indomitable, surrounded by security officers. What? How? Thulvik stammered. Forced transport. Jiwon whispered to Daehyun. They beamed him directly off his ship. Captain Xianwu stood and faced Thulvik on the screen. Welcome aboard, Captain. Guards, take him to the holding area. Thulvik was led away, still protesting weakly. Captain Xianwu turned to Daehyun and the others. Would you like to speak with him? She asked. You have the right to face your abuser. Daehyun thought about it. Part of him wanted to scream at Thulvik, to make him understand the fear and pain they had felt, but another part of him just felt tired. No, he said finally. I don't need to see him. I just need him to face justice. Captain Xianwu nodded with approval. Then let's deliver that justice. She opened a channel to broadcast throughout the entire sector. Her voice was clear and strong. Attention all vessels and stations in this region. This is Captain Xianwu of the Terran Deep Space Service. For too long, humans have been treated as expendable workers in this galaxy. Captain Thulvik sat in the holding cell. his four eyes darting around nervously. The room was small but clean. A single chair, a bed, basic facilities. Through the transparent wall, he could see two human guards standing watch. They didn't look at him. They didn't need to. He wasn't going anywhere. Dae-hyun stood outside the cell, watching him. Captain Seon-woo stood beside him, along with Ji-won and Hye-jin. They had come to deliver the judgment. Captain Thulvik, Seon-woo began formally, you have been found guilty of multiple violations under Federation emergency rescue laws. You abandoned 4 sentient beings in a life-threatening situation. You confiscated property while denying aid. And you caused the death of Minho through negligent homicide. Thulvik tried to interrupt, but Seon-woo held up her hand. The evidence is clear. We have recordings of your communications. Logs from your ship showing you were aware of their deteriorating condition. Testimony from survivors. You are guilty beyond any doubt. What do you want from me? Thulvik asked. He sounded defeated now. All his arrogance was gone. Compensation, Seon-woo said simply. You owe these 3 survivors for pain and suffering. You owe Minho's family for his death. You owe payment for the cargo you stole. And you owe a substantial fine for your violations of law. She handed him a tablet showing the amount. Thulvik's eyes went wide. This is impossible. I don't have this much money. Then you'll sell your ship to pay it, Seon-woo said coldly. Or your company will pay it. I don't care how you get the money. But you will pay every credit owed. Thulvik looked at Dae-hyun. Please, I was just following company policy. I didn't make these rules. Dae-hyun felt no pity. You had a choice. You could have helped us. Instead, you left us to die. Now you face the consequences. Captain Seon-woo tapped on her communicator. Transfer the funds within 24 hours, or we will seize your vessel and liquidate it ourselves. This is not negotiable. They left Thulvik sitting in his cell staring at the impossible debt he now owed. Dae-hyun felt satisfaction, but it was hollow. Money couldn't bring back Minho. Nothing could. Back on the bridge, preparations were being made for the next phase. Captain Seon-woo had promised to send a message. Now it was time to deliver it. Open a channel to all Federation frequencies, she ordered. I want every ship, every station, every government within 100 light years to hear this. The communications officer nodded. Channel open, Captain. You're broadcasting to over 10,000 vessels and installations. Seon-woo stood straight and proud. Behind her, the bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. The image of a powerful, organized, professional human military force. This was the message as much as her words. Attention all Federation vessels and member governments. This is Captain Seon-woo of the Terran Deep Space Service. Today, humanity makes an announcement. For 8 years, we have watched our people suffer abuse throughout the galaxy. We have seen human workers exploited, abandoned, and killed. We have been told this is simply the cost of being a young species in an established galactic community. She paused, letting her words sink in. We reject this. Humanity will no longer accept mistreatment. We will no longer stand by while our people are harmed. The Terran Deep Space Service now operates 12 capital ships throughout this sector of space. We monitor all distress calls from human workers. We investigate all reports of abuse, and we will respond to violations with appropriate force. On the screen behind her, images appeared, the Indomitable and her sister ships, sleek, powerful vessels that looked nothing like the converted civilian craft Earth had shown to the galaxy before. These were warships designed and built for one purpose, to project power and protect human lives. Let me be clear about our capabilities. Our ships are faster than yours. Our stealth technology is superior. Our weapon systems are more advanced. We can strike anywhere in this sector within days, and we will. The screen showed technical specifications, engine efficiency ratings, weapons yields, sensor ranges. Every number was better than the Federation standard. The message was unmistakable. Humanity had been holding back. This is not a declaration of war. We have no desire for conflict, but we will defend our people with whatever force is necessary. Any entity that harms, exploits, or abandons human workers will face immediate consequences. There will be no warnings. There will be no second chances. Seon-woo's expression softened slightly. To the humans working throughout Federation space, you are not alone. You are not forgotten. Earth is watching. Earth is protecting. If you are in danger, call for help. We will come for you always. She ended the transmission. For a moment, the bridge was silent. Then the communications console lit up with incoming messages. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Captain, we're getting responses from all over the sector, the communications officer reported. Most are requesting clarification. Some are angry. A few Federation governments are demanding we withdraw. Ignore them, Xianwu said calmly. Let them talk. Words are all they have right now. By the time they organize a response, we'll have demonstrated our resolve multiple times over. Lieutenant Tajin stepped forward. Captain, we're detecting movement from several Velkaran military ships. They're converging on our position. How many? 7 cruisers. They'll be here in approximately 3 hours, Xianwu smiled. Perfect. That will give us time to finish our business here. She turned to Daehyun. I have a question for you and your crew. What do you want to do now? We can take you back to Earth. You've been through an ordeal. You deserve rest and recovery. Daehyun looked at Jiwon and Hyejin. They had talked about this over the past few days. They had made their decision. We want to stay, Daehyun said. We want to join the TDSS. Captain Xianwu raised an eyebrow. Are you sure? This isn't an easy life. We spend months in deep space. The work is dangerous, and you've already suffered so much. That's exactly why we want to stay, Jiwon said. Because we know what it's like out here. We know what human workers face, and we want to help them. Hyejin nodded. Minho died because someone thought human lives didn't matter. I want to make sure that never happens to anyone else. I want to be part of something that protects people. I can't fly a warship, Daehyun added, but I can fly a rescue shuttle. I can help bring people to safety. That's what I want to do. Captain Xianwu studied them for a long moment. Then she smiled. Welcome to the Terran Deep Space Service. You'll start training tomorrow. Lieutenant Tajin will show you where to report. The 3 of them saluted. It felt right, like they had found their purpose. Over the next few hours, the situation developed quickly. The 7 Velkaran cruisers arrived as predicted. They arranged themselves in a threatening formation around the trading station. The lead ship hailed the Indomitable. Human vessel, you are in violation of multiple treaties and protocols. You will surrender immediately or face military action. Captain Xianwu responded calmly. We are operating under Earth Defense Authority, protecting human citizens. We have violated no treaties. However, if you wish to test our capabilities, please proceed. We are ready. The Velkaran commander seemed surprised by her confidence. You are 1 ship. We are 7. The odds are not in your favor. Are they not? Xianwu gestured to her tactical officer. Show them. On every Velkaran cruiser, alarms suddenly began blaring. Their own sensors showed weapons locks from multiple sources. The Indomitable was targeting all 7 ships simultaneously with enough firepower to cripple them. How? The Velkaran commander's voice was stunned. 1 ship cannot target this many vessels at once. Who said we're 1 ship? Xianwu replied. The stealth systems on 3 more human vessels deactivated. They appeared on sensors surrounding the Velkaran formation. They had been there the whole time, invisible and waiting. 4 human ships against 7 Velkaran cruisers, and yet the Velkarans looked defeated. Their technology couldn't compete. Their advantages in numbers meant nothing. Stand down, the Velkaran commander said quietly. First, we will not engage. Wise decision, Xianwu said. Now I suggest you return to your government with a message. Tell them that humanity is no longer weak. Tell them that we will protect our people. And tell them that we are open to better relations, but only as equals, not as inferiors. The Velkaran ships withdrew. They left the system quickly, their formation broken and disorganized. They had come to intimidate and had been intimidated themselves. Throughout the sector, the news spread rapidly. Humans had ships, real military vessels, and they were willing to use them. The balance of power had shifted in ways nobody had predicted. Over the following weeks, the effects became clear. Human workers who had been mistreated started reporting their abusers, knowing they would be protected. Companies that had exploited humans suddenly found themselves facing compensation claims and legal action. And several more abandoned crews were rescued by TDSS vessels. Daehyun, Jiwon, and Hyejin threw themselves into their training. Daehyun learned to pilot rescue craft, mastering the difficult art of docking with damaged vessels in dangerous conditions. Jiwon joined the tactical team, using her navigation skills to help locate humans in distress. Hyejin trained as a medical technician, learning to provide emergency care during rescues. They were there when the Indomitable responded to another distress call. A human mining crew had been trapped by a cave-in on an asteroid.